Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our new live session today with Danielle Bridge, talking about really important and crucial topic. And it's to show you a better approach for social media that is healthier for your mental health. Now, Danielle Bridge, we had her previously in our Cambridge Social Media Day 2020 last December, when we talked about the same topic, which is still as ever important. So, Danielle here is the CEO of her own training company, also the CEO of uh, an agency consultancy talking about mental health, and she's all about mental health activism. So we really love that, and we're looking forward to this. She's gonna walk us through some points of hers, and this is going to be an interactive session. So please go ahead and leave your questions and comments whenever Danielle has any questions. Without further ado, hi Danielle. I'm really excited to have you here. And
hey. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's a really exciting conversation. I think one that we need to continue having all the time, just to kind of keep us on the even keel throughout our journey on social media. So thank you for having me.
Well, welcome. I'm actually really excited for this because last week I had a screen detox weekend and I came so excited, and I came to the team and they were asking about it. So I was also like really looking forward to this. So please go ahead and let's start. So we have Alex saying woohoo, superstar, huge subject.
Hi, Alex. Hi.
Uh,
Excellent. Yes. Let's get started then. Awesome. So what I'd love for you guys to do, as Stan has said, it's an interactive session. So I'd like you to get a piece of paper and a pen, or whatever it is that you use to take notes on. Awesome. And the reason why is because we're going to use this session to do some actual work around the subject. So instead of me just talking about it, I want you to do some self-reflection. We're going to get some opportunities to share some tips, perhaps, that you guys have used. I'm going to use some statistical data to help to explain some of the stuff that I'm talking about today. So grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen, and we're going to get started. So first of all, in terms of social media, it's interesting when we talk about the term social media. Social media websites and applications that enable users to create and share content or to participate in social networking. All right, that is the actual Royal Society of Public Health definition of social media. So it's things that we use. And I was talking to Alex a couple of hours ago about, I think it was Clubhouse. It's a new one. So I'm going to find out all about that one. I think it'd be quite interesting. So that's the actual definition of social media. So what I'd like for you guys to do is grab yourself a piece of paper and pen. We'll get started. The first thing I'd like you to write down on that piece of paper is, when do you use social media? All right. So when do I use social media? And you'll probably realize that that's split up into two prongs. Number one may be work, and number two may be social or personal life. And so those two things are different, and they might need a different input, all right? So if you've got work, you might have strategy or somebody else to do that for you. But we're talking primarily today about your actual personal use on social media. So when do you use social media? And also, to what end? So is it boredom that you use social media for? Is it to catch up with friends? Is it to make sure that you're up on what's going on in your community or in the networks that you use? So that's the first question. Why do you use it? Is it for work or is it for personal life? And if you do it for personal life, to what end? What drives you to pick up that phone or that smartphone, or to go onto the internet and to search? To what end? And the reason being is because we normally pick up our phone out of pure boredom. Any moment in time now where it is free of doing something else, our phone comes up first. And I am not immune to this, guys. I mean, literally, I was a couple of minutes ago just speaking to the team here at Cambridge Social Media, and I was talking about the fact that I have two beautiful children. Sebastian is 13 next Tuesday, oh gosh, and my daughter Hermione is 11, and they don't have social media. Although I did get told off the other day because they have WhatsApp. We've got a family WhatsApp group. Apparently that is social media. There you go. And I also found out that they had a status function on the WhatsApp group. I didn't even know it was there. See, that's how bad I am at it. But that's what it is that my children use. And that's the only thing it is that they use. But when we are sitting in the living room, perhaps watching the TV, and one of them needs to go to the loo or go and grab something to drink. They leave the room, and the first thing that my husband and I might do is pick up our phone and just start scrolling. And it's that kind of behavior. So why do you use it and to what end is really important to be able to figure out what it is that you're doing. And if you do use it for work, do you have a schedule in place? Or do you even look after your own social media at work? All right, so they're questions to think about as well. Now, do you have a process around your use? Do you have a quick look, or do you focus on one thing for one particular reason? And I'd love to hear back from anybody on this one. So when you pick up your phone, do you have the power, the capacity to say, right, I'm going on Facebook for the next 10 minutes and I'm going to have a look at all of the stories on Facebook just because I'm bored? That's number one. Or I'm going to go on Facebook because I've got to do some posts and some scheduling about work or about my dinner or whatever it may or may not be. So what is it that you use that for? All right. What is it that you actually pick up the phone for? How do you feel about your interactions? Now, this is a very interesting one. When you put down your phone after however long you've been on your phone for whatever reason you've been on your phone for, how do you feel about it? Because I don't know about you, but there have been many times when I've put the phone down and gone, oh, that's a complete waste of time. And now I feel like pants and I feel rubbish, or I feel as if I'm now, I've just lost 20 minutes of my life. I can't get back. And I'm depressed because I've just read something that's really upset me, or I've been triggered by that. And now I feel really upset and my behavior changes. My mental outlook has changed just because of my interaction on social media. All right, I'm going to go through these questions again because I do want you to write the answers down. And do you do anything to curate your feeds? Do you delete accounts which make you feel in a certain way? Or do you not because of a fear for upsetting people? Now, my lovely friends, I remember I love Instagram, absolutely love it. And I remember after watching The Social Dilemma last year, I deleted about 350 of the accounts I followed, including friends, including people that I know. And I felt really bad. I was like, man, what if they find out that I'm not following them anymore? What if they think that's really personal? What if they unfollow me because I've unfollowed them? I mean, serious thought processes around this. And actually, it was a conversation with my husband that I had where he said to me that he believed, and this is his thought process only, something I have adopted now, to be fair, that Facebook for him became one of those things that was for people, for friends. It was about finding out what people did and what they were up to, and gossip and updates and photos, etc., etc. Instagram became something a little bit more like-minded, as in the things that he liked to look at and was interested in, like music, art, culture and things like that. They're the things that he followed on Instagram. So therefore he wasn't following many people at all. Whereas I was following like 455 million people because my mates and all sorts of stuff. And I realized that I was then following all these people and I couldn't ever stop scrolling. I never ever got to the end of my Instagram feed, never. And after watching The Social Dilemma, I decided I was going to get rid of them. And like I said, I got rid of 350 people that I followed. And quickly, my social media streaming, my browsing on Instagram shortened very quickly, which meant that my time on that medium was shortened as well. All right, so it's very interesting. So on your piece of paper and pen, with your pen, list the reasons that you use it and to what end. Did your list work? All right, so do you use it and do you have a schedule in place? Boredom. Is it actually boredom, free space, free time, or procrastination? Procrastination. Yeah, sometimes I'll look at my phone because it's better than doing what it is I need to get done. I think that's a normal human trait, right? So there is no judgment here, by the way, guys. It is literally about finding out for yourself why you use this medium. So is it habit, boredom, or procrastination? Do you have a process around your use? So do you actually think about what you're going to do for how long and to what end before you pick up that phone? Because that for me is really important around the intent when we're using social media. I have a friend of mine, wonderful, Colette Phillip of Brand by Me. She's a lovely, lovely, lovely woman. And she says that she has a timer for her phone use. Literally, right, I'm going to go on Facebook 5 minutes, sets a timer, Facebook, 5 minutes, done. And I'm like, man, how'd you do that? But then again, I've never even tried it. So who knows whether or not it'll work or not. So how do you feel about your interactions? I think actually in talking about mental health and social media, that is the bit that you need to really drill down on. How do you feel when you come off of social media? Has it helped you? Has it inspired you? Do you feel up for life? Do you feel validated? Do you feel warm and fuzzy? Or do you feel negative? Do you feel as if the fact you've just lost, 20 minutes, half an hour of your time down this rabbit hole of complete rubbish? Do you feel violated? I remember I was speaking to Alex Hughes with the Black Lives Matter movement last year. It was an absolute nightmare going on social media. I was just triggered all the time. And it is a really, really, really important subject. And it was something that I hold very true to my heart, very close to my heart. But at the same time, filling my feed and then going on that medium all of the time, I'm telling you, had a really, really, really impactful effect on my mental health. I couldn't sleep, all sorts of stuff. So that question is really important. How do you feel when you come off of social media? And do you feel triggered? And do you do anything to curate your feed? Do you delete those accounts when they make you, when they make you feel bad? Do you delete them? So I'd love to hear what people are saying at this particular point. So let's have a look. So somebody said, Dan Holloway saying, so strange is happening today. Like just last night, I was writing a blog on this very topic. So very needed, especially right now. Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, totally. And it's been like that for a very long time. This is not something new that we're dealing with right now. This has been going on for a number of years. I think now the importance of mental health being accepted in society as something that's okay to talk about has helped with that turnaround as well. Somebody said, I'm going to be honest, I never get bored, but I do procrastinate, which is a total waste of precious time. Yes, absolutely. I agree. And we've got somebody here. So yeah, habit. So Lillian says, yeah, habit. Notifications often make me look at it and then it grabs me and I lose time. That's it. Exactly. Lately, it's made me feel empty. I get very little from it, apart from Messenger with family. Right. So it's interesting that you said that, Lillian, because that interaction, that messenger part is very, very different from the mindless scrolling. It is, because that's where human connection comes from. The human connection is the bit that turns on those hormones that make you feel really good. You don't get that from the mindless scrolling that we tend to do, dipping into meaningless conversations. That doesn't fill us with the same thing. Although, interesting enough, from a mental health point of view, the action of putting all of that together can cause problems in and of itself. Thank you very much, Lillian. Absolutely, I agree. Yes. So if you've written some of those things down, I think it's important to make sure that you are aware. So when it comes to mental health, and everybody has mental health, when we're talking about mental health, everybody's got it. All right, you can have good mental health and you can have bad mental health, just like you can have physical health, good and being bad. So it's really important that we all understand that we do have mental health. And it's important when we're looking at social media, especially, to go into it with awareness. It's that blind picking up of the phone to fill in gaps that can cause the issues and the problems that we have, especially if we are around other people. If you're around other people and you've started conversations, for example, and you've seen the person on their phone and they're going, yeah, but I can hear you, it's fine. That does not work for me. This connection, this looking somebody in their eye while they're talking to you, is the thing that we all need. So being aware of our behavior when we're picking up our phones to go through social media is important. Really, really, really important. And as a mum, I have to answer to my children when my husband and I have both been on our phones whilst one of them's gone to the loo while watching a film, and we're scrolling and they're talking and we're like, yeah, no problem. And I have to go, and I'll put my phone down and I tell my husband off as if I wasn't doing that a couple of minutes ago. No, babe, they're talking to us. This is really bad. But it is, if you think about that action, it's telling our children that this piece of hardware with the software that's taking us away from them is more important than looking at them in their face. And some of you might be going, oh yeah, really, is it that dramatic? But actually think about it. Yeah, it can be, because we're not getting that interaction. We're also teaching our children that when you're talking to people, looking them in their face, giving them the time and the respect to actually look at them and interact properly isn't what we're doing. So how else are they gonna learn? So Rachel says, switching off, but then it really doesn't do that. Better to engage with people around you, yeah, in person, and pick up the phone or Zoom to connect in person, yeah. Absolutely, I agree as well. And it's not, and I think it's quite easy to paint social media as a really bad thing. And as I said on the last social media day that I came on and did, it's not about the tool. It's about being aware that the tool is very clever. It's very clever and it's demanding your time. And are we able to rise above that and to do the things that we need to do in order to gain, like Rachel said, about that connection with other people? So yeah, interesting stuff. So I hope you've written down some notes for yourself in terms of self-reflection, of asking those questions. And we're going to move on to something now called the self-perpetuating cycle. So you might have heard about this, and unfortunately, it is a negative for social media, excessive social media. And those of you that are able to self-moderate, you might not experience this as much as those who are unable to self-regulate as much, perhaps. And this is when you're lonely, depressed, anxious. So when we're thinking about moods and our mood cycles as well, you often use social media as a way to relieve boredom and or to feel connected with other people, right? So that's the kind of the crux. Using social media more often though, increases fear of missing out, right? So that FOMO and feelings of inadequacy, dissatisfaction, and also isolation. So we're isolated, so we go on social media and we still feel isolated. So then in turn, these feelings then negatively affect your mood, worsen those symptoms, and yet you go back to social media to feel better about those things. Self-perpetuating cycle that comes from social media use. And that, I mean, I will put out some information about where we get this information from in terms of statistics, etc., for you to take a look at later on, because it is really important stuff. And actually talking about statistics, there are a few here that I'd like to share with you. And this is mainly for our young people, because actually they found that in adults, and I don't know whether or not that's because their collection of data from adults is different from that of young people. But it says between 2012 and 2015, depression in boys increased by 21% and in girls by 50%. By 2015, 92% of teens and young adults owned a smartphone, but as smartphone use increases, so did the feelings of depression. 2017, a study of 8 to 12th graders, American, found that high levels of depressive symptoms increased by 33% between those years, and the suicide rate for girls this age increased by 65%, and it's only getting worse. Child suicide rates increased by up to 150%, and self-harm in girls between 10 and 14 nearly tripled. These patterns point to social media. Again, that is a very, 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 very important thing to put across. It's not about being scary. It's not about running away and getting everybody's phones now and going, you can't use it. But it's about being aware that the use of social media in the ways in which our young people can use them can be detrimental to their mental health. This is the point where I will share something that I shared with the group earlier. My 11-year-old daughter, like I said, had used statuses, and I didn't even know that it was a thing. And I saw her status and it broke my heart. She was feeling really low, and this was only a couple of weeks ago. You know, COVID-19 and lockdown is driving us all to despair, and she was in a really low mood. And what she'd done was gone onto her status and just written loads of, I'm really not feeling too good today. Is anybody else feeling as bad as me? And lots of like cryy emojis. Well, I was devastated, absolutely devastated. And I called her down. I said, come down. And her first thing is, what have I done? That's the main thing my children ask when I call them. Have I done anything? I said, no, of course you haven't, but I want to talk to you about your status. And she said, what have I done? Have I done something wrong? And she's 11. I said, no, you haven't done anything wrong, but I want to talk to you about why you felt it necessary to talk about your feelings and emotions on your status on your WhatsApp. And she said, I don't know, it's the first time I've ever done it. And I said, well, how do you feel now that you've done that? And she said, I feel a bit bad and I'm going to take it down. I said, is that what you think you should do? She said, yeah. I said, why? She goes, because I just feel a bit weird about it. And I said, okay, well, I'm really glad that we've had this chat, but what I want you to do is to figure out why you went to your status when you were feeling this bad, rather than, I don't know, come to me or speak to your girlfriend on the phone or do whatever it is. Why is it that you decided to use that? She said, I don't know. Literally, Mum, it's the first time I've ever done it. But we had a conversation around it, and I made it very clear to her that once you start to put out information on social media, you start to build a persona. And if you start to build a persona, then people attach your personality to that thing. And if that's And if that's what you want to do, then you know, we're very open-minded in our home. I will help support that, but you've got to be clear on your intention, because it isn't a willy-nilly thing. It isn't small. It can't be tiny. It is something, because it's attached to you and your very essence. And she said, no, I understand. And I said, next time you're feeling really low, why don't you come and talk to me or do bullet journaling? She loves drawing and stuff like that. And she said, yeah, Mum, I will do that. And we had a really beautiful conversation. And it wasn't about me shutting her down. It wasn't about me saying, you know, you don't do this on blah, blah, blah. It's about trying to be aware, doing the work around social media. So it's not this really scary things where all of these scary statistics come from, because it's not going anywhere. But we do have a responsibility to ourselves and our families to educate them in a way that is not currently available. I mean, literally, that's it. Somebody else says, that would be helpful, as I know someone close to me who uses this in a way but struggles with mental health. Yeah, do you know what? It's really devastating. Thank you for sharing that. It's devastating when you see people's mental health dwindling on social media, and they're using social media in a way to try and reach out and get help. And I'm all for reaching out and getting help. I really am. I don't think that social media is the place that we should do that, but it's become the norm. People then struggle with what to say, quite rightly, and therefore they say nothing. And if we go back to that negative self-perpetuating cycle, if people aren't addressing your mental health needs because you're literally putting out a lifeline there going, I'm feeling really bad, I don't know what to do, and it's just self-perpetuating, then somebody else doesn't answer that because they don't know how to, that's going to make it feel worse, because then you just perpetuate that cycle. It's really difficult stuff. Thank you for sharing that. I really, 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 I appreciate that. So yeah, there you go. So I think it's also quite interesting as well when we're talking about what we can do. So we know that social media is a good thing. We know that social media is a bad thing. The thing in the middle is how you choose to use that. So how do you choose to use social media, and what effect does it have on you? And this is all about the type of person you are and perspective taking. So perspective taking is a really powerful thing that I always ask people to do whenever I'm delivering training. And that for me, and I'm going to say something really, really, really controversial now. If everybody was aware of perspective taking, I think it would literally be the key to world peace. Just saying. I do. Because if we can understand why people do the things they do, we build up empathy around that. Like that lady sharing, that person sharing about, you know, their friend. I can feel what it feels like to be in pain. I know what that feels like. I don't know what this person's going through, but I can understand why they might feel as if social media could be their saving grace. I can understand that. I can appreciate that. So therefore, when I approach that person, I'm going to approach them with empathy and understanding, not berating them for using social media, which is the wrong thing to do, in my opinion. All right. So it is quite important that we understand that. Perspective is key when we're looking at social media, especially for other people. Who are you works for who you are. And you might have had conversations like that with your friends, right? It might be something along the lines of, oh, well, I'm really good and I only put my phone down because I don't, it's not in my bedroom. And someone else goes, well, it's only in my bedroom because I've got my alarm on it. Yeah, it's the first thing you pick up in the morning. We all know it is. All right. Whereas somebody's gone to the trouble of moving it from their bedroom because they know that they don't have the power to not look at it first thing in the morning before you've even gone to the toilet. Do you know what I mean? First thing you do, reach over and grab your phone before you've even gone for a wee. So this is the reliance that we have on social media, and how intrusive it can be in our lives if we do not put up boundaries. And that's what comes next. Oh, so who's that? Yes. Oh, so hello, I'm part of the TED Talk circles. It is another good medium to connect with friends and people around and enjoy the meeting and share views on some global issues. Man, woman, whoever that is, I love TED Talks. My intelligence radar goes up a notch whenever I'm reading that. I feel very intelligent and adult whenever I'm watching TED Talks. They're brilliant and real insight into some really important conversations. So yeah, I agree. Go find some TED Talks that you're interested in. And when you've got 5 or 10 minutes, watch that instead, you know, rather than scrolling through people's stuff, perhaps. So healthier habits as well, right? So here are some healthy habits. And actually, what they've found, and this is through multiple statistics, multiple papers, multiple information research around mental health and the impact of social media states that just 30 minutes less social media use can have positive effects around our mental health. So what can we do? Again, grab yourself a piece of paper and a pen, and this is what we're going to be sitting down with. So use an app to find out how much time you use on social media, and then set a goal by how much you want to reduce it. My tip for that would be to do it collectively. If you're part of a family, do this stuff collectively, not in isolation. So as a family, we're going to minimize our time on social media. We're going to have more interaction within our family, especially at a time of living through this pandemic. So let's figure out, I want to do half an hour less, and I'm going to do that every day. All right. And in that half an hour, I'm going to teach my kids, because I've just taught them how to play solitaire with a pack of cards. Love solitaire. And yes, I know you can do solitaire on a computer, but I'm talking about offline stuff. So my children, I've taught them how to play solitaire, and actually it's been quite interesting watching them learn a new skill, especially when they've got a bit of time by themselves. It's something you can do in isolation on your own. So set a time about how much time you want to reduce your time on social media. Turn off your phone at certain times of the day. Love this. And I do definitely do this one. And it says, such as if you're driving, in a meeting, in the gym, having dinner, there is a no phone rule at the dinner table in my house. No phone rule. Now, I have broken it a few times when I've taken a photo of my dinner, because I've got an Instagram blog on my food intake, but not all of them. And I'll try and get it done before I sit down at the dinner table, but sometimes I forget. And so get it away. There's no phones at the table. That's a time for interaction amongst our family. I have conversations around catching up with the day. So, and also, or playing with your kids. This is one. Don't take your phone to the bathroom. But surely that's like a really good amount of time to concentrate on social media, all right? Well, try not to, because again, it's a habit that we're using. So why don't we break that habit? Why don't you read a book or do Sudoku or something else whilst we're using the bathroom? That could be a good one. Don't bring your phone or tablet to bed. I would love to know whether or not anybody on this this talk uses their phone in their room. More than that, would you be willing to leave it out of your room tonight? Ooh. Ooh. So don't take your phone to your room. Would you be willing to not take your phone? Nobody's written anything here. They're like, don't think I can. You concentrating. All right. So disable social media notifications. So is that something that you can do? Can you disable all of the notifications? Because if you're anything like me, it's the constant pinging. Ping, 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 ping. And then you get something else, ding, ding, for another social media thing. I don't know, it could be anything. And it's that constant drilling of information that's taking me away from something, and I'm being pulled towards it all the time over there. And I go, 1 minute, just what does that notification look like? What do you feel when you hear about that notification? When you hear it ping again, what do you think? You go, oh my gosh, could be something really bad and really important. Do I need to go and get it? Do I need to get it just in case? What do you feel when you get those notifications? And turn them off. Limit checks. Now this one's interesting. If you compulsively check your phone every few minutes, wean yourself off by limiting your checks to every 15 minutes. I can't believe that this was actually written for that time frame, because 15 minutes is a very short space of time in my mind. But again, perspective. So in my mind, it's a very short space of time. So every 15 minutes, limit yourself. That's 4 times in an hour, maybe. Okay. Then once every 30 minutes, then once an hour. And there are apps you can automatically limit when you're able to access your phone. Yes. Thank you. I have a no phone rule during meal times. Good place to start. You know what? My mum always said to me, Danielle, parenting is really tough. Your kids aren't always going to like you. So I'm up for them not liking me for me making adult decisions that impact them positively. I have a no phone rule during meal times. My children find it hard. I've tried so hard. My daughter falls asleep with her phone beside her. I put a do not disturb on from 10 p.m. unless it's people's on my favorite list. Right, so you've gone through some actions there. You've gone through some actions to do to limit your time because you've realized that there is impact. Perfect. And that's all we can do ultimately. They're not going anywhere, like I said earlier. So what can we do to help? And if you are a parent, unfortunately, like I said, our children, as a fellow mother, are not going to appreciate everything we do to keep them safe. But it's all right. I'm okay for that. I'm up for that. I knew that when I signed up for it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm fine to have those arguments or those me putting my foot down when I think it's important to keep my kids safe, and I will do that. Try removing social media apps from your phone. Just a sharp intake of breath. Let's just sit on that one. Try removing social media apps from your phone. Okay, so I did do this on Facebook. I did it on Facebook because Facebook, for me, personally, perspective, remember, and just for me, is the one that I can't regulate as well. So I am very triggered when I go onto Facebook because it always seems to me that it's a space to either show the very best of humanity or the very worst of humanity. There's not any kind of middle ground really for me, and that might just tell you who I follow, who I'm friends with, more than anything else. But I find that one really difficult, so I have removed that one from my phone, and I found that very easy. Although the bummer is that I can't. Messenger doesn't work very well when you delete the app off of your phone, so that's a bit rubbish. Sometimes I have to click on Messenger, and then I get hundreds of messages which I've missed. Then I have to put one of those GIFs up of me eating popcorn while I catch up with everybody's messages that I haven't been on for a week. So that one's a bit tough. But would you take it off your phone? Would you go so far as to take it off of your phone? I'd be quite interested in hearing around that one. Try removing social media apps. Maybe. Who knows? I would be quite interested in hearing what you have to say on that one. So, like I said before, in terms of making you feel good or making you feel bad, there is interesting information. So the good things about social media: self-expression, self-identity. So, young people that are part of what once were marginalized communities, for example, have found people that can help them, that they found their tribe. So there's some really, really good things in terms of our young people connecting with people that are more like-minded with them. Community building, where you just have to see the awesome work that the shifters are doing on social media to see that it builds communities. We know that people will connect with people on social media that are like-minded. I belong to a number of Facebook groups. Obviously, I'm not on it on my phone, but I will pop in every now and again and see what's going on, specifically within those groups. But I'm very ruthless now. I get rid of any group where I'm automatically added. I need to find it. In fact, Lenka might be able to help me. I need to find the button where people cannot add me to groups without my permission, because I find myself being on loads and loads and loads of groups, and I'm just delete myself from them all the time. Emotional support. Yeah, so people have found really good mental health support networks on social media, specifically on Facebook. So there I am getting rid of Facebook, and then Facebook's really good for some stuff. Awareness to others, so being aware of other people and what's going on in their life as well. Access to health information, real world relationships, and loneliness. In fact, those things can help, and it's on a scale. But then the opposite side: depression, anxiety, body image issues, bullying, fear of missing out, quality of sleep, and getting the amount of sleep. And they're the negative aspects of that. And I don't know whether or not us as human beings have always been the way we are. I think that we have. But we've now been given a space to be able to be the very best of humanity or the very worst of humanity. And it's important for us, I suppose, to do that work to find out just who we are and how we'd like to contribute to this beast that we call social media. It is all about self-awareness. It's all about self-regulation and how you contribute to the wider picture when it comes to our social media use, and also how you're giving, what information you're giving to others. How are you becoming somebody that somebody should follow? Our kids are, influences. What kind of a person are we? And you'll probably realize that during that last little bit, I'm talking about that whole kind of bullying thing on social media. I just don't get it. but then I just don't get bullying really. So maybe it's just a transfer of behaviour onto a medium now, which is easily done. And that's my worry, in that I'm a 42-year-old woman this year, 42, and I'm a grown woman who watches this behaviour perpetuated in my age range. I'm like, really? Seriously? How is this stuff good? How did that happen? So yeah, I worry about that a bit. Maybe that's what leads me to doing mental health talks around social media. But it's all about taking responsibility from an individual point of view about the type of person you choose to be on social media. So let's have a look. Ah, lovely. Thanks, Lenka. As far as I know, at the moment, you're not able to prevent being added to a group. Well, that's rude. You can tell those friends or stop or block them. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I can pin that on my Facebook profile. Don't add me to stuff, maybe, or I'll just go through and delete. Thank you, Lenka. Thank you very much. So yes, so they're the things. So the good and the bad. It's all about perspective taking, and it's all about safeguarding. There is some information here that I'd like to share with you about what we could potentially do around safeguarding. So introduction, and actually Lincoln might be able to help whether or not this is even in the pipeline, I don't know, but introduction of pop-up heavy usage warnings on social media. Would it make a difference if you knew that you've been on there for 6 hours a day? Would it be helpful? Would it be something that makes you go, oh my gosh, really? Oh, that's too much, I'm going to go and put it away. That's really bad, because we're adults and we're able to self-regulate. Social media platforms to highlight where photos of people have been digitally manipulated. Yeah, so there was something the other day that I saw, which was quite interesting. It was when you go onto something and you're looking at plants, and it was actually plants. So it's looking at. I think it was Kirsty from the Shifties who put something out on LinkedIn, and it was saying that she'd been looking at plants online, and then the next post, which was direct advertising, was, "We saw you peaking, and therefore would you like to buy our plant?" And I was like, so now they know, and they're being very transparent in that. Maybe being transparent, like that would be useful for us, all right? So it's transparency, therefore it stops us going down that whole fake news and deep truths that is so dangerous with these forums. NHS England to apply the information standard principles to health information published via social media. And if you have been on the receiving end of any conspiracy theories throughout COVID-19 this past year and a bit, you might be aware of the need to have that. Very, very, very important. Safe social media use to be taught during PSHE education in schools. I need to double check with my son whether or not that's being done, because I think they're touching on some of it. In how much depth, I'm not sure. Social media platforms to identify users who could be suffering from mental health problems by their post, and then discreetly signpost them to support. Wow, that would be amazing if that was possible. I don't know whether or not it would be a bit too intrusive for me. I don't know how I feel about that, because that way we're then expecting algorithms to pick up on signs and symptoms of deteriorating mental health and then signpost. I'm not sure. I think that one needs a bit more of a longer and deep conversation. Youth workers and other professionals who engage with young people have a digital media component in their training. Yes, so they'll be able to recognise what young people perhaps are going through and how to recognise those triggers where social media might be of detriment to that young person. More research to be carried out into the effects of social media on young people's mental health. I don't think we need any more, to be honest. I don't want any more research. I'd like some actions. I'm not responsible for those actions. I don't know what they look like. I can only look after my own children. But we've got enough research. The research themselves is scary enough as it stands. I don't think we need any more. I just think we need ways to action it. And the one thing I feel that the social media platforms are not doing is addressing how much power they have over implementing some of this. We all know from when Trump got his Twitter account banned and all that sort of stuff. Sorry, what happens when I have to say that man's name? We all know that there is interventions that can be had. It's just how far that person has to go before an intervention is had. How far does a person have to go before there is an intervention? And that's the bit that I struggle with from a mental health point of view, because we know that people's interactions on social media have a marked effect on their mental health. All right. So these are some of the safeguarding things that can be done, I believe. And I'd like to end on something I shared last time. We need to get back to analog human relationship that powers everything in human history and understand the dangers that we see right here. So it's about getting to our humanity and figuring out what we need before we give it all over to AI and social media. So on that note, that does bring me to the end of me babbling on, but there are two parts in there that I think is really important for you to take away from here. Number one is to do the upfront work. Figure out what it is that you use social media for and put as much effort into managing that as you would anything else in your life. And figure out also the things that you can do to safeguard you and your family, regardless of what's going on outside in the world. What impact can we have on those closest to us on a medium that we know, if used wrong, can have devastating impact? So thank you.
Wow. I was just like listening here and taking mental notes. First of all, thank you so much. I do have two thoughts I would like to share with you.
Cool.
And one is that even though we're talking about social media, however, as an adult, I saw something recently from my cousin, and she said, as an adult, Gmail email inbox have become part of my social media. And so it was like just a light bulb in my head, because yes, I'm also a victim of not only checking social media so frequently, but also checking my email for work or for not work. I just check my email. I have that impulse to check my email. So yeah, emails is also something that could be considered as part of all this detox that we need to have as adults, because emails are also affecting us, because we feel that urgent need to always check if someone has emailed us something to work, and we also need to be taking breaks from work. At least that's for me.
Yep, I agree.
So I don't know if people are feeling the same about Gmail or like emails in general, but I definitely do have, I was struggling with it. The second thing is that I did recently, and I told the team about it, that we're going to try to do it often. And also my friends were like just so amazed, is that last Sunday I had a 24 hours screen detox, and I was also going through my mind, like, how am I feeling about it? Why am I thinking that? What if something happens? What if a client emails? What if, I also work in social media like Lenka and many people here, and that maybe we manage our accounts for business. So we feel like, oh, we can't be away for 24 hours, but we can be away for 24 hours if it's absolutely important that something needs to be checked during that 24 hours. Maybe the team and I discussed that we can have rotas. So somewhat during my 24 hours of detox, someone is present just in case something happened. So the thoughts I've been having through that 24 hours, like, what if my family messaged? What if this client emailed? What if this post didn't go? What if this post went wrong on the other client? And I was just like creating all these crises and having this FOMO for 24 hours, just 24 hours during my weekend, So now I'm going to do it almost every week to have this detox. My friends is going to join me. I think Lenka and Eva from the team are going to join me to do it like more frequently. But yeah, it's scary to feel like if we're not on a screen for 24 hours, as if the world's gonna, like collapse.
Exactly. And you're right, Fana, thank you so much, because actually what you're describing there is not necessarily social media, but it's about our time and how much time people demand from us. And the irony is that the majority of that time, it's made up. People are absolutely fine with hearing from you in 72 hours. This 24-hour thing that we've said that we need to, get back to them, we need to do this, it's made up in our own mind. And my mum is the most amazing woman. And she always says to me, Danielle, you're not that important. And I was like, oh, what do you mean I'm not that? What she means by that is that the importance that we put on ourselves in our place be that job or whatever. It's so inflated that if people can't get hold of us, then you know what, nothing's going to happen. If there's an emergency, that's different, you know, and I'm talking loss of life or accident or something. If there's an emergency, someone will find you. They'll be able to get hold of you. Us taking 24 hours away from our social media or from our email or from our phone is not going to stall the planet, but we've made it up in our minds that we're indispensable. Our time is indispensable. And what that's also doing is putting so much pressure on ourselves. It's not even from anyone else, it's on ourselves. We've done that ourselves. So I'm really glad to hear that you've done that thought process and you know, your mind goes back to, you're like, actually, how am I feeling? Think about it. Just feel it. So, you know, physically as well. You know, I might feel quite anxious about the fact that people can't get hold of me. And that's because now I'm worried about something happening and me not being able to. So you go from one thing and it spirals into something else. So being really aware of your feelings and your thoughts and emotions around that behavior is important.
Thank you. Like I say, it's Gmail and email in general is one of the things that causes me the most anxiety. See, because this is our work. Like we feel like our livelihood depends on our work, and our work isn't social media, isn't email, isn't being connected. And it's a lot to fight, you know, like we're only human, as you said, it's a lot to go through.
Absolutely. It's just something interesting, actually, I did on my emails, and I thought it was really important because it was to stop that expectation. If you set very clear expectations on people, then they know what it is that they're getting. So I put out an automatic reply on mine saying that I am not connecting to my emails very often. If you need me and it's an emergency in block capitals, then call this number and it will get through to me. And it's my office number, so they'll always leave a message and I'll pick that up. But otherwise, I aim to be in touch with you via email within 72 hours. Job done. That was literally, it sets an expectation. And I understand that people's livelihoods, especially if you're freelance or something like that, where you have, you know, you are the direct connection to that client. I understand that therefore that there might be a bit more pressure. But again, setting very clear boundaries of expectations will work. People don't necessarily just disappear because they can't get hold of you. And those people that do, yeah.
We have someone that's saying, I have now got involved in clarity walks where we just take our phone out of our pocket. If we want to take a photo to share, happy to share the details, the keys around walking and talking without your phone. Yeah, I actually never take my phone on my walks. It was a bit of a struggle. It was like, oh, I want to share like stories and posts, but then it was like, I mean, I would just want to enjoy my walk, and you know, like it's the only time during the day when I'm working that I don't have a screen or my phone around me. So yeah, walking without a phone, definitely.
Beautiful. And it's interesting because actually some of that I know for a fact, because it's happened to me before. You'll get up in the morning and go, right, what have I got on today? And what can I take a photo of? And what can I put on Instagram? And what is it that I can share with people? I know that. I know if you're anything like me, that's exactly what happens sometimes. And I have to say to myself, Danielle, today, for example, the weekend is just your family weekend. And because that's my cue, I go, right, family weekend, and that's it. I don't bother. Or sometimes it's like hormonal. So sometimes if I'm feeling really like up for it and I want to share everything, and I'm like, yeah, life is really good, I'm going to share everything. But I go into it with that in mind, and I explain to people that actually I'm on one at the moment. You'll get 55 posts or stories from me today because I'm in that mood. Whereas over the past 24 hours, I haven't put anything out because I'm not in the mood. And actually, let's be very clear. Those people that have really high traffic, you know, the influencers of the world, etc. This is a full-time job. This is not something that we mere humans can kind of dip in and out of and get the same impact. It shouldn't be thought of as that. But that's why doing the thought process work around why you're doing it is important to do.
Yeah, absolutely. You know? Let's see if we have last questions, and also if we can read in the comments what kind of changes are you going to take from today that you're going to start applying. What was a light bulb in your head? So tell us. And you know, I always love to share some of those experiments. Like I haven't posted about my 24-hour detox yet, but I plan to, because so today on my story I just asked people, how are you, in capital, and I was just getting things like stressed out, you know, like sad, we're just not living, we're just going by, and like all these kind of feelings. So I was like, okay, this is scary, because like it feels now I have the responsibility
Ah,
I have a responsibility to acknowledge that, but also, so I started encouraging people, go and send some hugs to this person, or send some positive thoughts. And so yeah, we have the power on social media to actually help, and
yeah.
it's all about perspective.
Absolutely. And it's also about knowing where to signpost. For example, the 5 ways to well-being are well known and accessible by all. And I've been doing an awful lot of talks and conversations with organizations at the moment whose staff are under some serious pressure in the frontline COVID response. I mean, really, really tough. They're on the phone to people that are dealing with, with losses and bereavements and loss of jobs, really, really, really difficult stages of their life, and they're struggling, and they're saying, we're all at home, we're working from home, there's no delineation between work and home, I've got the children running in, all sorts of issues that some of us are very well versed in. What do we do? And I said, we can't fix this. We have not got the power to fix this. So what can we do is to access the things we can. So, for example, if you're going to use your phone and you want to, I don't know, find out, you want to go to a walk and you want to take a picture of something, or of every bird you see, it takes your mind off of things. It's useful, but you've got to go into it with intent. So the 5 ways to well-being, your connection, being curious, being active, all of these things we can still do with our phones. We can still do it with that whole mental health vibe in mind as well.
Yeah, Marcus says, so set that intention. So also Marky works in social media, so she definitely gets what we're talking about. So Lillian, what she's going to do today is looking for some of the tracking apps so that I can get my head around the time target to put the phone down. Great. Another person says, declutter for sure, stick to time restraints, keep timer on apps, which I have, but the habit of deleting when it gives me a warning, definitely keep the phone out of bedroom. I know that because I also set timers on my phone for social media use and certain type of phones, but I've been ignoring that because like, oh, just for another minute, just for another 15 minutes, and I definitely do that.
Yeah.
Lenka's asking, how do you deal with social media comparison? Oh, yes. Be it looking at people who are doing more, better, and make you feel not good enough, or people complaining and struggling and make you feel guilty for feeling better than them.
Oh, Lenka, wow, we could do a whole like training session on this, right? This goes back to perspective and being empathetic towards other people. Now, I know, and you all know people who put out things on social media that is untrue. And what I mean by that is not blatant lies, but they put out a persona of a lifestyle that doesn't match when you speak to them or when you're having conversations with them. Some people do that because it is a shield. Some people use it as a shield to stop people penetrating and finding the warm, squishy bits and therefore being vulnerable and exposed, which then could potentially have a negative impact on their mental health. They're not doing it to make you feel bad. They're doing it because it's all about them. And this is really important. Other than bullying and trolls, but again, I would argue that this says more about them than it does about the victims. Again, probably have a conversation around them. Apart from that, people put out the things that they put out because of the way they are feeling, with no thought process about the impact on someone else. If you imagine that that's happening for every single person, you can imagine this round robin of feelings, emotions, and following people feeling bad, following people feeling bad. But the person who you're following and then feel bad about are also following someone and feel bad. Do you know what I mean? It's like this train of negative feelings, which you then round robin. So I'm one of the most confident people I know. My mother brought me up to be extremely body confident. My body is my own. I couldn't care less about anyone else's. And quite frankly, that's just who I am. But I also appreciate that might not be the same as others. So I understand why that person might look at social media as a way and then compare their own life with what it is that they see. But that takes awareness and work. That takes awareness and being aware that you're being lied to in the nicest possible way. That person's still feeling bad about something different. But this is all about self-reflection and doing personal development work on yourself to gain a better understanding of who you are as a person and being okay with that.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
hard.
our business have just had a training on this. It was amazing and so helpful. Again, I'm
Mm.
actually also seeing lots of businesses who are taking this initiative to bring forward people like you, to bring up the conversation and talk about these. I know a friend's company, they received an email from the CEO saying like, do the minimum in these circumstances. Do not overwhelm yourself.
Absolutely.
So that's really great from companies to come forward and say something like that as well. I do have a question if no one else has a question. Very, very. Also, it gave me a lot of controversial feelings. So recently, I was tutoring, and one of my students, who's also very young, around 20, like early 20s, she decided that she wants to make money and she wants to be a life coach because she saw this company of young ladies posting about that they can train her to be a life coach. £35 only a month, and like they have this amazing social media post, and like and then it made her think like, yes, I can do it, like I can talk to people, and I had to ask her, but are you qualified? Oh, you don't have to be qualified. That's the thing. Like you don't need to have a qualification to be a life coach. But my question was like, yeah, but are you qualified? Like whether you have the qualification or not. So it just made me think like also not only social media, but media in general are making young people feel things that they can accomplish. And I didn't want to put her down because it was such a strong conversation that I don't want to have with her. But that feeling like, because we see it on social media, someone is doing it, that maybe we can do it. And it also can affect us negatively if we cannot do it because we feel like, oh, they couldn't do it, we couldn't. So how
Yes.
do you feel about that? Because I was just like,
Do you know what, Dana? There is a saying that my mother has basically brought me up on. She's not watching. I'm going to send this video to her. Hi, mom. Um, and she used to say this thing: though those who don't hear will feel. Just going to let that settle. What that means is that you can only go so far in protecting somebody from something. Sometimes the best way for that person to learn is to just go through it and learn from it. We've all been stung before. And actually, I think to a certain extent, we live in a community and society now that tries to protect you from everything negative. And I think actually that in itself is a negative thing, because you have to go through things to understand that it's not the right way. You have to go through things to understand and appreciate that there are better ways, and you can't be protected all of the time.
yeah.
Does that make sense? You know that there are some people out there who are doing something and you really don't agree with it, and you can see it, you can literally see it the other end. You're going, this is going to crash and burn, this is just awful. But you go, okay, cool, because that process is something that that person has to go through themselves to understand the outcome. They'll learn from things like that. We learn from
But
those
it's
things.
not because we're picking up these trends that we see on social media. She's a life coach, she's a career coach, he's a personal trainer, and we're seeing them, and the lifestyle looks so ravishing. It's so amazing that we want to do it. We don't consider like maybe that person is doing that on social media, but all the hard work that they had to do, or maybe they didn't. So social media again is not a place that showed us that.
No, but we know this, and it's interesting. You just said that. I had a friend of mine reach out the other day, literally, actually Monday, and this person was looking for some work while they're on furlough at work, and she's bored and she wants to do some more work, a personal development. And she said, "I'm thinking of doing some counselling. I want to do a counselling diploma." And I was like, "That sounds awesome." And so I said, "Well, tell me about this counselling diploma." And she said, and she sent me the link, and it was 49. I think it was £490 or something like that for like a day. You go in and do something, and then you pay £45 a month, and then after a year you get a diploma. And I was like, that's not a diploma. That is some kind of made up thing that somebody's made, and they'll get a certificate at the end of it. But what do you get out of that? And I sent a link to a counselling qualification that takes 3.5 years for your minimum, because that's the amount of work and effort that you need to put into something legitimate. If it looks too good to be true, it often is, but these are lessons that we should have learned by now. And just because social media has got, or media itself has got governance over our attention, we should work on the processes behind it about what we look at versus whether or not it's real or made up. This is a counselling diploma.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to miss it. A question from Meetup. One of the biggest challenges I face with doing social media marketing for my business is coping with the speed of change. How do you balance keeping at the top of things versus giving yourself space to breathe? Thank you to whoever said that question.
yeah, brilliant question. So I asked Alex this morning about Clubhouse. And I've never heard of Clubhouse, apart from the fact that I see that man doing some awesome things and also Lenka on there. And I'm like, wow, what's that? And I asked the question, he's like, oh, it's this really awesome. And I go, great. Ooh, I have to leave that there because I can't take that on board now in terms of my business strategy. So from a business point of view, it's important to think about your business strategy when using social media and doing the work behind what works for your sector, what works for your personality, what works for your time capacity, and sticking to it. In terms of the new media that's coming through, I am not I'm not your expert on that. These guys are. But in terms of the mental health point of view behind it, thinking about your strategy gives you the time to breathe and not just jumping on bandwagons because they exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who joined us and for the questions. Someone said Daniel's mom need to do.
Everyone wants to be my mom. She's awesome.
Lillian, as a teacher, I find more and more young people wanting to be influencers with instant fame is so hard. It's absolutely hard, and it's a 24 hours job to be an influencer, I think. Yeah, thank you, Daniel, for this really lovely talk. Very important. So happy to have you with us. And I'm sure we can host your mom maybe one day.
Yes, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thanks for everyone who joined us. If you're watching the replay and you also have questions, please leave them in the comments. If Daniel can maybe help us answer it, or you can get in touch with Daniel. We will leave her details in the post. Thank you for joining us and have a lovely day, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.